Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather trilogy is widely regarded as one of the greatest film sagas of all time, with the first two installments often hailed as cinematic masterpieces. However, the third part received mixed reviews and didn't quite live up to its predecessor's legacy. What many didn't know is that plans for a fourth Godfather film were actually in motion, with a star-studded cast including Leonardo DiCaprio as young Sonny Corleone and Robert De Niro reprising his role as Vito Corleone. This ambitious project would have followed two timelines, much like The Godfather Part 2, exploring both Vincent Mancini's reign as the new Don, played by Andy Garcia, and Sonny's rise in the family business, played by Leo DiCaprio. But why did this potential epic continuation of the Corleone saga never make it to the big screen? Let's dive in and uncover the fascinating story behind Godfather 4 and what could have been, exploring that planned plot. But before we dive deeper, please hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on our latest videos. One small click for you, but a huge deal for us. Part 1. The Aftermath of Godfather 3.
Friends, I have come here because our business together is done.
Back in 1990, Godfather Part 3 had just hit theaters, and let's just say the reception was mixed. Critics and fans alike felt it didn't quite live up to the masterpieces of the first two films, but despite the lukewarm reception, it still made a hefty profit at the box office. Now, in Hollywood, profits talks. And when a franchise has been as successful as The Godfather, even a slight dip in quality isn't enough to put it to bed permanently. So, with dollar signs in their eyes, Paramount Pictures started to entertain the idea of continuing the saga. Francis Ford Coppola, the mastermind behind the trilogy, wasn't initially opposed to the idea. In fact, he and Mario Puzo, the author of the original Godfather novel, began brainstorming ideas for a potential fourth film. Part 2. The Vision for Godfather 4. The plan was to use the same dual timeline structure that made Godfather Part 2 so compelling. Remember how the film jumped between young Vito Corleone's rise to power and Michael's reign as Don? Well, Godfather 4 would have done something similar, but with a twist. In the present-day timeline, which had been set in the 1980s, we would have followed Vincent Mancini Corleone, played by Andy Garcia. Vincent, if you remember, was the illegitimate son of Sonny Corleone, who took over as the new Don at the end of The Godfather 3. This part of the story would have shown Vincent's attempts to legitimize the family business while dealing with the consequences of his actions in the previous film. But here's where it gets really juicy. The past timeline would have been set in the 1930s, focusing on Sonny Corleone's early days in the family business. And who was lined up to play young Sonny? None other than Leonardo DiCaprio. Leo was even in talks about stepping into James Caan's shoes and portraying the hot-headed Sonny in his formative years. Robert De Niro was also set to return as Vito Corleone, bridging the gap between his portrayal in Godfather 2 and Marlon Brando's iconic performance in the original film. Just imagine De Niro as Vito, DiCaprio as Sonny, and Garcia as Vincent, all in one film. It's enough to make any film buff's head spin. Part 3. The Plot.
Nephew, from this moment on, call yourself Vincent Corleone.
In the 1980s timeline, we would have seen Vincent grappling with the weight of his new position as Don. Remember, he took over for Michael Corleone at the end of Godfather 3, but not without cost. The death of his cousin and love interest Mary would have haunted him, likely influencing his decisions as the new head of the family. Coppola and Puzo reportedly had plans to show Vincent trying to move the family business in a new direction. Perhaps he would have attempted to fully legitimize their operations, or maybe he would have doubled down on the criminal enterprises. Either way, it would have been fascinating to see how Vincent's leadership style differed from Michael's calculated approach. There were also whispers of Vincent getting involved with drug cartels, a move that Michael had always resisted. This could have set up some intense conflict, both within the family and with the external threats. Meanwhile, in the 1930s timeline, we would have gotten a glimpse into the Corleone's family golden age. This was the era when Vito Corleone, played by De Niro, was solidifying his power and expanding the family's influence. However, the real focus would be on young Sonny. Imagine seeing Sonny's transformation from a brash young man into the fierce, hot-headed enforcer we meet in the original Godfather. We might have witnessed his first kill, his rise through the ranks, and the beginnings of his volatile relationship with Carlo, who would have later become his brother-in-law and, ultimately, his betrayer. This timeline would have also given us a chance to see the other Corleone siblings in their youth. A young, timid Fredo, a budding Tom Hagen, and even a baby Michael. All these characters could have made appearances. Part 4. The What-Ifs. One intriguing possibility is the parallel between Sonny and Vincent. Both were hot-headed and impulsive, traits that led to Sonny's downfall. Would Vincent have learned from his father's mistakes, or was he doomed to repeat them? This could have been a central theme of the film, watching Vincent struggle with his nature while we simultaneously see young Sonny embracing his. Another potential storyline could have involved the changing nature of organized crime. The 1980s saw the rise of internal drug cartels and the beginning of globalization. How would the Corleone family, rooted in old-world traditions, adapt to this new landscape? We might have seen Vincent trying to navigate these new waters, perhaps making alliances or enemies with the Colombian or Mexican cartels. In the 1930s timeline, we could have explored the impact of the Great Depression on organized crime and how the Corleone family weathered this economic storm. Part 5. The Cast That Could Have Been. As mentioned, the cast could include the big names Garcia, DiCaprio, and De Niro. Talia Shire was also reportedly in talks to reprise her role as Connie Corleone. In the 1980s timeline, we could have seen an older, wiser Connie, perhaps serving as an advisor to Vincent. In the 1930s, we might have a glimpse of her as a young girl, already showing signs of the strong-willed woman she would become. There were also rumors of Robert Duvall potentially returning as Tom Hagen. Although the character was mentioned as deceased in Godfather 3, there was talk of retconning this or perhaps showing him in flashbacks. Seeing the young Tom being taken in by the Corleone family in the 1930s timeline would have been a powerful callback to the original film. For the young Michael, the possibilities were endless. But if the movie was made today, it most likely would have been Timothée Chalamet. Imagine a fresh-faced actor portraying the future Don as an idealistic young man years before he becomes the cold, calculating figure we know from the later films. Part 6. Why It Never Happened. The biggest blow to the project came in July 1999, when Mario Puzo passed away. Puzo was more than just the original novel's author. He was Coppola's creative partner throughout the franchise. His death took the wind out of Coppola's sails, and the director felt that without Puzo, the project wouldn't be the same. There was also financial considerations. Despite Godfather 3's profitability, it hadn't performed as well as the studio hoped. Paramount was hesitant to greenlight another big-budget sequel without a guarantee of success. Moreover, Coppola himself was going through a difficult period in the late 90s. He was involved in several lawsuits and hadn't directed a major feature since 1997's The Rainmaker. The prospect of tackling another Godfather film with all the pressure and expectations that would come with it might have seemed daunting. Part 7. The Legacy. Even though Godfather 4 never materialized, its ghost continues to haunt Hollywood. The idea of continuing the Corleone saga has never fully died. In fact, there have been several attempts to expand the Godfather universe in other media. Author Mark Weingartner wrote 2 sequel novels, The Godfather Returns and The Godfather's Revenge, which continue the story beyond the films. While these aren't considered canon in the movies, they show the enduring interest in the Corleone family's story. In 2012, Ed Falco wrote a prequel novel called The Family Corleone, based on an unproduced screenplay by Mario Puzo. This book, which focuses on Sonny's youth, gives us a tantalizing glimpse of what the 1930s segment of Godfather 4 might have looked like. While we may never see Godfather 4 on the big screen, the influence of the franchise continues to be felt throughout the film industry. Take The Sopranos, for example. Creator David Chase has openly acknowledged the influence of The Godfather on his groundbreaking series. Part 8. The future of the franchise. While a fourth film seems unlikely at this point, the story of the Corleone family continues to captivate audiences and filmmakers alike. In 2020, Coppola released a re-edit of Godfather Part 3 titled The Godfather, Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. This new cut aimed to address some of the criticisms of the original release and give the trilogy a more satisfying conclusion. The fact that Coppola returned to the material after all these years shows just how much the franchise still means to him. There have also been rumors of a potential Godfather TV series. In the age of prestige television, where complex, long-form storytelling reigns supreme, a Godfather series could potentially explore the Corleone saga in even greater depth than the films. Imagine a series that could dive deep into the family's history, perhaps starting with Vito's arrival in America and spanning generations. It could explore characters and plot lines that the films didn't have time to fully develop. With the right creative team, this could be a fascinating way to continue the Godfather legacy. So what do you think? Do you think Godfather 4 should have been made? Or was it better left as it is? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. This helps us bring you more Insight videos. This video was made by movie fans for movie fans.